For many, the word UFO conjures up images of distant, far-off places like Roswell, New Mexico, or the military bases of Area 51. The iconic flying saucer with its metallic sheen and mysterious glow seems like a figment of science fiction, a construct woven into the fabric of popular culture. Yet, the reality is that UFO sightings and alien encounters are not confined to one small corner of the globe. They are a worldwide phenomenon, with some of the most intriguing and unexplained cases occurring in Australia, a vast and largely untamed land of deserts, rainforests, and expansive coastlines. The sheer size of the Australian continent makes it an ideal backdrop for strange events, many of which remain unexplained, even to this day. While Australia has long been known for its diverse wildlife, unique landscape, and rich cultural history, the stories of UFOs and encounters with extraterrestrial beings are often brushed aside or relegated to the realm of speculation. Yet, beneath the surface of what is commonly known, there is a quiet undercurrent of mystery that runs deep, weaving through the country's modern history. There have been sightings, unexplained phenomena, and even government investigations, all of which paint a picture of a country that may be far more connected to the larger cosmic narrative than we realize. It is crucial to understand the psychological aspect of these encounters, not only to grasp the depth of the phenomena, but also to appreciate why they captivate so many. Witnesses of UFOs often describe their experiences in hauntingly similar terms: an overwhelming sense of disbelief mixed with awe, confusion, and sometimes fear. The mind is forced to confront something that does not belong to the known world, and that realization can be jarring. For those who have had such encounters, it can feel as though they are suddenly pulled into a new reality, one where the ordinary laws of physics seem to break down, and the rules of the universe are no longer what they thought they were. This shift in perception can have profound emotional and psychological effects, not just in the moments following the event, but also in the long-term aftermath. The idea of aliens and UFOs has long been associated with fear of the unknown, fear of what might be watching from the shadows. But there is also a sense of wonder and curiosity, especially in a country like Australia, which has seen its fair share of odd and unexplainable occurrences. People who encounter UFOs often express a strange combination of emotions: amazement, fear, and sometimes even a strange sense of connection. It's almost as if, through these encounters, they are being shown something that transcends the limits of human understanding, a glimpse into a broader reality beyond our own. This mixture of emotions is one of the most compelling aspects of UFO and alien stories. It's not simply about seeing something strange in the sky, but about the deep, existential questions it raises about our place in the universe. Australia is a land rich in mysteries, both modern and ancient. The Aboriginal people, who have lived on this continent for over 60,000 years, have a vast body of mythology and spirituality that includes stories of beings descending from the stars. The idea of celestial beings, or sky people, is deeply ingrained in the cultural consciousness of many indigenous tribes. In fact, some of the most compelling modern-day UFO sightings in Australia have been linked to ancient beliefs and the stories passed down through generations. For some, the idea that UFOs are not a recent phenomenon, but something that has been part of the fabric of human experience for millennia, is an intriguing possibility. Could the strange lights in the sky that people report seeing today be tied to a much older, more profound connection with the stars? Could the UFOs that appear over the Australian outback have been seen and interpreted by the indigenous peoples long before they became a topic of Western scientific inquiry? As we delve into the realm of UFO sightings and alien encounters in Australia, it's important to note that the majority of these experiences are not simply fanciful tales or fictional constructs. Many of these accounts come from credible witnesses, ordinary people who have nothing to gain from telling their stories, but the simple urge to share something they cannot explain. Some have even gone public, speaking out despite the potential ridicule or disbelief they may face. There are reports from farmers, truck drivers, pilots, military personnel, and even government officials who have all had encounters with objects in the sky that defy rational explanation. What they describe are not simple misidentifications of aircraft or natural phenomena, but highly unusual, often terrifying events that seem to challenge the very limits of what we understand about the world around us. This journey through the unknown begins not in some distant land, but right here in Australia, where countless sightings, stories, and encounters have been recorded over the years. From the far reaches of the outback to the more populated coastal cities, the pattern is clear. Australia has long been a hotspot for UFO activity. Whether it's strange lights in the sky, mysterious crafts that seem to defy the laws of physics, or encounters with beings that are unlike anything the world has ever seen, the stories are as varied as they are compelling. They span decades and have been documented by both amateur investigators and official government agencies alike. But what makes these encounters so fascinating is not just the sheer number of sightings, but the overwhelming sense that something is happening just beyond the veil of our understanding. The more you dig into the stories, the more you realize that these experiences, strange as they may be, are not isolated incidents. They are part of a larger narrative, one that we are only beginning to understand. And while these encounters often remain unexplained by official sources, they continue to intrigue and captivate the imagination of people around the world. As we move forward in this exploration of alien encounters in Australia, we'll look at the fascinating testimonies of those who have experienced these events firsthand. Their stories, though grounded in reality, are steeped in mystery, offering glimpses into a world that lies just beyond our comprehension. Some of these accounts are chilling, others are awe-inspiring, but all of them share one thing in common. They challenge the way we think about the universe and our place within it. For as much as we may think we know about the world, there is always more to learn, more to discover, and sometimes that discovery comes from places we least expect. As we dive deeper into these stories, we'll also explore the psychological effects these encounters have on those who experience them. How does it feel to witness something that doesn't belong to this world? What happens to the mind when it is forced to confront something truly alien? And how does society, as a whole, process such experiences? Is there room in our world for such mysteries, or do we try to bury them, explaining them away in ways that make us feel more comfortable? The road ahead will be filled with questions, and perhaps even more mysteries. But one thing is certain. As we venture into the realm of UFO sightings and alien encounters in Australia, we are entering a world that is as real as it is strange, a world that continues to challenge everything we think we know about our reality. Australia, often regarded as one of the most remote and geographically diverse countries on Earth, presents a vast, expansive landscape that serves as the perfect backdrop for the unexplained. From its dense rainforest to the vast empty stretches of the outback, the country's immense size and natural features have played a crucial role in shaping the strange and often mysterious phenomena that have been reported over the years. It is this very isolation, combined with the country's rich history and the stories passed down through generations, that make Australia a prime location for strange events and unexplained encounters. The Australian continent spans over 6 million square kilometers, making it the 6th largest country in the world. It is a land of extremes, where arid deserts meet lush rainforests, and where the world's longest coral reef, the Great Barrier Reef, borders some of the most untouched wilderness on the planet. This diversity of landscapes is not only a physical characteristic of the land, but also an essential element in understanding the mysterious occurrences that often take place. The sheer vastness of Australia, particularly the remote outback, means that there are countless areas where human presence is sparse, and unexplained phenomena can remain hidden or unnoticed. These areas, with their sparse population and limited infrastructure, are often seen as places where secrets could be kept, places where the strange and unexplained might be more likely to occur. Australia's outback, in particular, is one of the most remote and enigmatic parts of the world. A rugged, dry expanse that stretches across much of the interior of the country, the outback is a vast wilderness that few people ever venture into. Its isolated nature has led to it becoming a space steeped in mystery and folklore. It is not hard to imagine that within such an environment, something unusual could be happening just out of sight. The isolation of the outback makes it a perfect location for strange occurrences that go unnoticed by the mainstream. In fact, some of the most chilling UFO sightings in Australian history have occurred in or near this vast, empty expanse, where the night sky is often the only thing visible for miles. The stars above seem to stretch on endlessly, providing a breathtaking yet eerie canvas that may explain why so many people have reported strange lights and unexplained objects in the sky. The emptiness and silence of the outback can magnify any sense of unease or fear, making it the perfect setting for a UFO encounter. This wilderness is juxtaposed with some of Australia's more populated and urbanized areas, like Sydney, Melbourne, and Brisbane, where the contrast between the everyday hustle of city life and the enigmatic reports of extraterrestrial encounters seems almost surreal. Yet, even in these metropolitan centers, reports of strange lights and unidentified flying objects are not uncommon. The tension between Australia's urban centers and its remote regions creates a fascinating backdrop, where the mystery of the unknown exists just on the edge of the everyday. The question arises, could these events that occur in the deep wilderness be connected to the more mundane daily lives of those living in cities? Could the alien encounters reported in Australia's isolated regions be part of a larger, more widespread phenomenon that stretches beyond geography and culture? But it's not just geography that makes Australia a unique place for UFO sightings. The cultural landscape of the country is equally rich in mystery and storytelling, particularly when it comes to the intersection of Indigenous beliefs and modern UFO phenomena. Australia's Aboriginal peoples, whose ancestors have lived on the continent for over 60,000 years, have long told stories of beings descending from the stars. These sky people are described in Aboriginal mythology as powerful beings who came from the heavens, teaching the people the ways of the land and the stars. These stories, passed down through generations, form a deep cultural understanding of the cosmos and the beings that may inhabit it. Interestingly, many modern UFO sightings in Australia are strikingly similar to these ancient stories, suggesting a possible connection between the extraterrestrial phenomena and the long-standing cultural narratives of the land. For the Aboriginal people, the stars have always been a significant part of their spiritual and cultural identity. The night sky is not just a collection of shining lights, but a sacred space filled with meaning and connection to their ancestors. The constellations themselves tell stories of creation, of the Dreamtime, and of celestial beings who guided and protected the people. This deep cultural connection to the stars provides a unique lens through which to view UFO encounters in Australia. Could it be that the strange lights in the sky that many Australians have reported seeing are somehow tied to these ancient beliefs? Could these sky people be more than just myth? Many modern-day researchers and enthusiasts have drawn connections between the UFO phenomena and these Aboriginal stories, suggesting that what people are experiencing today may be a continuation of a much older narrative. As we explore the landscape and cultural context of Australia, it becomes clear that this country, with its deep ties to the land, its isolation, and its rich folklore, is a place where the unexplained is not only possible, but perhaps even expected. It is within this complex, multifaceted environment that many of Australia's most famous UFO sightings have taken place. For example, the 1966 Westall UFO sighting in Victoria, one of the most famous and well-documented UFO cases in Australian history, took place not in a remote desert or wilderness, but in a suburb of Melbourne. Witnesses, including school children and teachers, reported seeing a flying saucer-like object that hovered in the sky before disappearing into the clouds. The response from authorities was swift, but the witnesses, many of whom were later interviewed, described the event as something that defied explanation. The case was covered by local news, but over time, the details became muddled, and some began to question whether the authorities had done enough to investigate what had truly happened that day. This case serves as a reminder that UFO sightings in Australia do not always happen in isolated rural areas. They can occur in urban settings, where the presence of technology, media, and government surveillance should make such phenomena harder to ignore. Yet, despite the advancements in technology and the proliferation of video footage, there are still many unexplained incidents that remain just as mysterious today as they were decades ago. This contradiction, the occurrence of extraordinary events in a modern, technology-driven world, adds an additional layer of complexity to the UFO phenomenon in Australia, one that makes it all the more compelling for researchers and enthusiasts alike. It's also worth noting that Australia's government and military have had their own history of investigating UFO sightings, which further underscores the serious nature of these occurrences. In the 1970s, the Royal Australian Air Force, RAF, ran an official investigation into UFO sightings across the country. The investigation was aimed at determining whether these sightings posed any threat to national security. However, the results of these investigations were never fully disclosed to the public, leading many to speculate that there may be more to these phenomena than the official reports suggest. The lack of transparency surrounding these investigations has only fueled further interest in UFOs, as it suggests that there may be elements of the story that have been deliberately kept hidden from the public eye. As we move deeper into the history and testimonies surrounding UFO encounters in Australia, the landscape, both physical and cultural, provides rich context that helps to frame these mysterious events. The wilderness and urban centers, the ancient beliefs and modern narratives, all come together to create a backdrop that is not only fascinating, but essential to understanding the true scope of UFO phenomena in the country. Australia, with its diverse geography and rich cultural heritage, is a land where the strange and unexplained are not only possible, they are an integral part of the story of the land itself. The history of UFO sightings in Australia is a fascinating tapestry, woven from decades of strange encounters, eyewitness accounts, and official investigations that have sometimes been dismissed or quietly swept under the rug. The phenomenon of unidentified flying objects in the Australian skies is not a recent development, but rather a part of a much longer, ongoing narrative. While much of the world's attention has been focused on UFO sightings in countries like the United States, Australia has quietly accumulated a significant body of evidence, ranging from military reports to local testimonies, that challenges our understanding of what may be out there in the cosmos. One of the earliest and most famous UFO sightings in Australia took place in 1966, in the suburb of Westall, Victoria. On April 6th of that year, more than 200 students and teachers at Grange Horse Primary School witnessed an extraordinary event. The witnesses described a flying saucer-like object that appeared in the sky, moving erratically before disappearing into the clouds. The object was reportedly seen by multiple groups of people, including school children and faculty members, all of whom were left bewildered by the experience. What makes the Westall UFO sighting particularly significant is not just the large number of witnesses, but the fact that it was a highly publicized event at the time. Local news outlets covered the incident, and the military even intervened. Despite the public attention, the Australian government and military were quick to downplay the event, attributing the object to a weather balloon or some other mundane explanation. However, many of the witnesses, including those interviewed years later, remain convinced that what they saw was something far more mysterious. The Westall incident is just one example of the numerous UFO sightings that have occurred across the country. In fact, Australia's UFO history stretches back well into the 1940s and 1950s, a period when UFO sightings were becoming more frequent worldwide. During this time, the phenomenon was already being studied by both government and civilian researchers, and Australia was no exception. The Royal Australian Air Force, RAF, began documenting UFO sightings as early as the 1940s. Their first known report of a UFO was made in 1947, the same year as the famous Roswell incident in the United States. Although the RAF's reports were relatively sparse, they did acknowledge the occurrence of unidentified aerial phenomena, and their investigations revealed some puzzling incidents that didn't fit within the conventional explanations of aircraft, balloons, or atmospheric phenomena. As the years went on, sightings continued to increase. One of the most notable sightings took place in 1954 in the town of Lismore, New South Wales. A number of residents, including a local police officer, reported seeing strange lights in the sky, moving in erratic patterns. The lights were described as bright and intense, darting across the sky in ways that no known aircraft could replicate. Despite the efforts of local authorities to investigate, no definitive answers were found, and the event remained shrouded in mystery. Like many other sightings, this case was never fully explained, and it added to the growing list of unidentifiable aerial phenomena that had been reported throughout the country. In the following decades, the frequency of UFO sightings in Australia seemed to accelerate. The 1970s, in particular, were marked by an increase in reports of unusual aerial activity. The Australian government, acknowledging the rising number of sightings, established the UFO Task Force within the Department of Defense. This task force was tasked with investigating UFO sightings and determining whether they posed a threat to national security. One of the most well-known cases during this time was the 1978 encounter near the small town of Rendlesham, just outside of Melbourne. A local farmer and his family witnessed strange lights in the sky, which then descended into the nearby fields. The family reported seeing a large, glowing object hovering just above the ground before it suddenly shot into the sky at an incredible speed. This event was particularly significant because it was not just a fleeting sighting, but an ongoing encounter that involved physical evidence, such as burned patches in the ground, suggesting that something truly unusual had occurred. Throughout the 1980s and 1990s, UFO sightings in Australia continued to make headlines, and the interest in the phenomenon grew. The Australian media began to pay more attention to these sightings, and both amateur and professional investigators began collecting data. One notable case in the early 1990s was the 1993 sighting in the small town of Wilton, New South Wales. A local man reported seeing a large, triangular-shaped object hovering just above the ground before disappearing without a trace. This sighting was one of many reported throughout the country, and it added fuel to the growing belief that Australia's skies were often visited by unidentified craft. At the time, some researchers suggested that the Wilton incident, along with others, was part of a larger pattern of UFO activity in the country. However, despite the increasing number of sightings and the growing interest in UFOs, Australia's government has remained largely silent on the issue. The RAF and other government agencies have released a limited number of reports on UFOs, but many of the details remain classified or vague. This lack of transparency has led some to speculate that the government may be hiding information about UFO encounters or, at the very least, downplaying their significance. While there have been some high-level investigations into the phenomenon, such as the Australian Defence Intelligence Organisation's ADIO, involvement in investigating sightings in the 1990s, there is still much that remains unknown about the extent of the government's knowledge on UFOs. One possible reason for the government's reticence is the cultural climate of the times. During much of the 20th century, UFOs were often dismissed as mere superstition or fantasies. The media portrayed UFO sightings as little more than hoaxes or misidentifications, and the scientific community was slow to take the phenomenon seriously. This dismissal was compounded by the widespread belief that UFOs were linked to Cold War-era fears of Soviet espionage, leading many to assume that any strange object in the sky was merely a foreign aircraft. As a result, those who reported UFO sightings were often ridiculed or discredited, and official investigations were more focused on finding logical explanations rather than uncovering the truth. In more recent years, however, the attitude towards UFO sightings in Australia and around the world has begun to change. The release of previously classified government reports in other countries, such as the United States, has brought renewed attention to the phenomenon, and UFO sightings are now being treated with more seriousness and respect. Researchers in Australia have begun to take a more scientific approach to the study of UFOs, using modern technology to track sightings and gather evidence. Organizations such as the Australian UFO Research Network, AUFORN, have been instrumental in documenting and investigating sightings, and they have helped to create a more open dialogue about the reality of these unexplained events. The history of UFO sightings in Australia is rich and varied, filled with compelling accounts from credible witnesses who have experienced something beyond ordinary understanding. While the government has remained relatively quiet on the matter, the evidence, both from official reports and from the accounts of ordinary Australians, suggests that there is something truly extraordinary happening in the skies above. The Westall incident, the Rendlesham encounter, the Wilton sighting, and countless others all form a part of this larger, ongoing story. And while many of these incidents remain unexplained, one thing is certain. UFO sightings in Australia are not just isolated events, but part of a larger, global phenomenon that continues to fascinate and mystify people around the world. As we continue to explore the UFO sightings in Australia, it becomes clear that these events are not merely random occurrences, but are part of a much larger pattern. The stories and evidence gathered over the years suggest that something, perhaps something beyond our comprehension, is happening just beyond the veil of our everyday experience. Whether these encounters are the result of extraterrestrial visitation, military experiments, or some other unknown factor, the mystery continues to unfold, drawing researchers, skeptics, and enthusiasts alike into the search for answers. And as more and more sightings are reported, the question of what is truly happening in the skies above Australia remains one of the greatest mysteries of our time. The true essence of any mystery lies in the personal experiences of those who have encountered the unknown. In Australia, countless individuals from all walks of life have shared their stories of witnessing UFOs, strange lights, and encounters with beings beyond this world. While some skeptics may dismiss these stories, the weight of so many eyewitness testimonies, each with its own unique details, paints a picture of a phenomenon that cannot easily be explained away. These encounters are not just fleeting moments of confusion or misidentification, but profound, life-altering experiences that often leave those involved with more questions than answers. The stories that follow are just a few among many, offering an intimate glimpse into the strange and unexplained events that have occurred across the vast Australian landscape. One of the most chilling accounts comes from a farmer in rural New South Wales who has chosen to remain anonymous out of fear of ridicule. In the late 1980s, he was working late into the evening, tending to his crops. It was a quiet night, with only the sounds of the wind and the occasional rustling of leaves breaking the silence. Suddenly, he noticed a strange light in the distance. At first, he thought it might be a car's headlights from a neighboring farm, but as he watched, the light began to move in erratic patterns. It would hover, dip, and dart in ways that no conventional aircraft could replicate. Feeling an unease settle over him, the farmer watched in awe as the light grew larger, until it was directly above him. He described the object as being disc-shaped, with a pulsating light emanating from the center. It hovered silently for several minutes before darting off at an astonishing speed, vanishing into the night sky in a flash. This encounter left the farmer shaken, unable to explain what he had witnessed. It was an experience that would haunt him for years, a moment in time that seemed to defy the natural laws of physics. Even today, he remains uncertain of what he saw, but he is certain that it was not a conventional aircraft. Similarly, the 1993 UFO sighting near Wilton, New South Wales, remains one of the most compelling and well-documented cases in Australian history. A local man who was returning home from a late shift at work noticed a strange triangular-shaped object in the sky. The object was incredibly large, almost filling the horizon, and its lights were a stark contrast to the typical blinking lights of commercial aircraft. The man described the object as moving silently at an incredibly slow pace, as though it were deliberately making itself visible. At one point, the object hovered just above a nearby field before shooting off at an immense speed, disappearing without a trace. What makes this particular sighting so significant is not just the witness's account, but the physical evidence that seemed to support the story. Neighbors who lived nearby also reported seeing the same object, and some claimed to have heard a low-frequency hum coming from the object before it disappeared. In the years following the sighting, the man who had witnessed the event sought answers, but the local authorities and military were quick to dismiss his claims, offering no explanation for what he had seen. This silence only added to the mystery, leaving the witness to wonder if what he had experienced was something far beyond ordinary human understanding. Another remarkable sighting took place in the small town of Wagga Wagga, also in New South Wales, in the early 2000s. A group of friends were enjoying a quiet evening at a local park when they noticed a strange light moving slowly across the sky. Initially, they assumed it was a plane, but as they watched, the object began to move in ways that defied logic. It would hover in one spot for several minutes, then move rapidly in a completely different direction, only to stop again. The group described the object as being incredibly bright, almost blinding, and emitting an unusual hum that seemed to vibrate in the air. The light would flicker on and off intermittently, giving it a pulsating effect. The friends watched in disbelief as the object continued to perform its erratic movements, and eventually, after what felt like an eternity, it shot off at a rapid speed, disappearing into the distance. The group was left stunned, their minds racing with questions. Was it a drone, a military aircraft, or something entirely different? The experience had a profound impact on each of them, leaving them feeling as though they had glimpsed something from another world, something that was not supposed to be there. One particularly intriguing account comes from a retired military pilot who witnessed a UFO while on a routine flight over the outback in the 1980s. The pilot, who was highly trained and familiar with all types of aircraft, reported seeing a strange light in the distance. As he drew closer, he realized that the object was not behaving like any aircraft he had ever seen. It was an intense, white light that seemed to change shape, at times appearing as a sphere and at other times as a long, elongated form. The object appeared to be moving erratically, dipping and darting in ways that were completely unlike any known aircraft or natural phenomenon. The pilot tried to approach the object, but as he did, the light suddenly accelerated and vanished into the distance, leaving the pilot in stunned silence. The encounter was not just strange, it was completely outside the realm of his professional experience. Despite the logical explanations he initially considered, he could not dismiss what he had seen. It was a moment that left him questioning everything he had ever known about the world. Yet, it's not just isolated, rural encounters that have been reported. Even in more populated areas, people have shared unsettling stories of UFOs and strange lights in the sky. In the city of Brisbane, a woman reported seeing a series of lights moving in formation across the sky one evening. What began as a small cluster of lights soon grew into a large, tightly packed formation that moved in unison. The woman, who was walking home at the time, was struck by how orderly and deliberate the lights seemed to be. The lights would shift positions, almost as if they were performing some kind of coordinated dance, before suddenly disappearing. The witness later described the experience as surreal, as though she had been transported into a different reality, and she couldn't shake the feeling that what she had seen was not of this world. Similar reports have emerged from other Australian cities, where residents have witnessed strange lights in the sky, sometimes in perfect formation, sometimes darting in seemingly impossible directions, often with no logical explanation. While the vast majority of these eyewitness accounts cannot be definitively explained, they share common threads. The witnesses, regardless of their backgrounds or locations, describe their experiences with the same sense of awe, confusion, and even fear. The objects they describe, whether they are lights, disc-shaped crafts, or strange, triangular formations, seem to defy conventional explanations. The witnesses are often left with a deep sense of unease, as though they have glimpsed something that is not meant to be seen, something that exists outside of human understanding. These accounts are not isolated incidents, but part of a much larger pattern of mysterious encounters that stretch across the entire continent. From remote farms to urban centers, from the vast outback to the bustling streets of Sydney, Australians have experienced firsthand the unexplainable nature of UFO phenomena. These personal testimonies offer a powerful reminder that the unexplained is not just a theoretical concept or a scientific puzzle. It is a very real human experience. For those who have witnessed a UFO, the encounter is not something that can be easily dismissed or forgotten. It becomes a defining moment in their lives, one that raises more questions than answers and challenges their understanding of the world around them. Each story, no matter how small or seemingly insignificant, adds to the growing body of evidence that something extraordinary is happening in the skies above Australia. Whether these encounters are evidence of extraterrestrial life, military experiments, or something else entirely, the stories remain a powerful testament to the mystery that lies just beyond our reach. As we move forward in this exploration of UFO sightings in Australia, we are reminded that the greatest mysteries often lie not in the evidence itself, but in the stories of those who have lived through them. These eyewitness accounts are the key to understanding the broader phenomenon, offering us a glimpse into a world that remains just out of our grasp. And while the search for answers continues, these testimonies serve as a constant reminder that the unknown is always with us, hovering just above the horizon, waiting to be discovered. When it comes to unexplained aerial phenomena in Australia, one of the most consistent themes is the lack of a clear or consistent response from both the government and the media. Despite the growing number of sightings, the Australian government has often remained evasive, withholding key information or offering explanations that fail to satisfy those who have witnessed these strange events. Over the years, this silence has fostered a sense of frustration and distrust among the public, particularly among those who believe that something far more significant may be happening just beyond the horizon. The relationship between the Australian government, the media, and UFO phenomena is a complex one, marked by ambiguity, secrecy, and a reluctance to fully acknowledge what many have described as a global mystery. One of the most notable examples of government involvement in UFO investigations in Australia occurred during the 1970s, when the Royal Australian Air Force, RAF, established a formal process for investigating UFO sightings. The Air Force began collecting reports from civilians who had witnessed strange objects in the sky, with a specific focus on determining whether these sightings posed any potential security threat. While this initiative indicated a level of seriousness, the process was quickly overshadowed by the reluctance to publicly disclose the results of any investigations. Instead of offering transparency or clear explanations, the RAF and other military branches often dismiss sightings with vague statements or simple explanations, such as misidentified aircraft or weather phenomena. One of the most infamous cases that has been linked to government intervention was the 1966 Westall UFO sighting in Victoria. After more than 200 students and faculty members witnessed a flying saucer-like object hover above the school grounds and then rapidly disappear, the local authorities were quick to investigate. However, reports soon emerged that military personnel had visited the area, instructing witnesses not to speak to the press or to anyone else about what they had seen. This sudden intervention by the government raised suspicions that the military knew more about the phenomenon than they were letting on. Despite the efforts to suppress the story, the Westall incident became one of the most significant UFO sightings in Australian history. It remains a source of intrigue to this day, particularly because of the government's role in attempting to keep it quiet. The government's approach to UFO sightings has often been one of denial or downplaying. Official reports from the military and the RAF frequently offer explanations that are far from satisfactory, attributing sightings to mundane causes such as aircraft, meteors, or even the planet Venus. However, these explanations have never fully accounted for the numerous eyewitness testimonies that describe objects exhibiting behaviors impossible for conventional aircraft, such as sudden acceleration, hovering, or sharp turns at high speeds. As a result, many Australians have come to believe that the government's reluctance to engage seriously with the phenomenon is not due to ignorance, but rather a deliberate attempt to avoid the subject or suppress information. This sense of secrecy and the lack of official transparency has been one of the driving forces behind the growth of UFO research and the increasing public interest in the subject. Despite the official silence, the media in Australia has occasionally played a significant role in shaping public awareness of UFO sightings. While mainstream news outlets have often been reluctant to cover the phenomenon in depth, there have been instances where the media has given attention to high-profile cases, bringing them to the forefront of public consciousness. One of the most well-known cases was the 1980 UFO encounter in the small town of Rendlesham, Victoria, where a group of witnesses, including military personnel, reported seeing a large, glowing object hovering near a military base. Local newspapers were quick to report on the incident, and the story generated widespread interest, even attracting the attention of international UFO researchers. However, despite this brief media attention, UFO sightings often fail to maintain a consistent presence in the news. In many cases, UFO stories are relegated to the back pages of newspapers, with little follow-up or deeper investigation. The media's treatment of UFO sightings tends to follow the same pattern. Initial reports are covered with curiosity, but as time passes, the stories fade from public view, often overshadowed by more sensational news events. This lack of sustained media coverage contributes to the general sense of uncertainty and dismissal surrounding the UFO phenomenon, leaving many witnesses feeling as though their experiences are being ignored or invalidated by the very institutions that are supposed to investigate and report on such events. In some cases, the media's approach to UFO sightings has been outright dismissive. Skeptical reporters and news outlets often frame UFO sightings as nothing more than hoaxes or the result of mass hysteria. They downplay the credibility of eyewitness accounts and attempt to rationalize away unusual phenomena with far-fetched explanations. This attitude, while prevalent in the mainstream media, has only further fueled the frustration of those who believe that UFOs are a legitimate mystery deserving of serious attention. The media's dismissive stance has created a climate of ridicule and skepticism, making it difficult for those who have had genuine encounters to feel confident in sharing their experiences. This environment of disbelief has also made it harder for researchers and enthusiasts to gain the necessary attention or support for their investigations. While there are numerous organizations and individuals dedicated to UFO research in Australia, their work is often marginalized or dismissed by both the government and the media. This lack of institutional support has forced UFO researchers to rely on grassroots efforts, organizing their own investigations, interviews, and public outreach programs. The Australian UFO Research Network, AUFORN, for example, has been instrumental in documenting and investigating sightings across the country. Despite limited resources and public recognition, organizations like AUFORN continue to push for a more transparent approach to the UFO phenomenon, arguing that the public has a right to know the truth. For those who have experienced UFO encounters firsthand, the lack of official recognition or support can be deeply alienating. Many witnesses describe feeling as though they are caught in a liminal space, where their experiences are neither fully acknowledged nor easily dismissed. On one hand, they know what they saw, and it defies explanation. On the other, they are often forced to contend with a world that refuses to take their story seriously. This tension has led to a sense of isolation among some UFO witnesses, who are left to navigate a landscape where their experiences are neither validated nor thoroughly investigated by the authorities. Moreover, this atmosphere of secrecy and nonchalance regarding UFO sightings has led to an increased sense of mistrust toward government institutions. The more that the government and military downplay UFO encounters or dismiss them with weak explanations, the more conspiracy theories emerge. The public's growing suspicion that there may be a deliberate cover-up of information has contributed to the rise of alternative theories, ranging from ideas about extraterrestrial visitation to speculations about secret military projects. In the absence of concrete answers, these alternative theories flourish, providing a sense of mystery and intrigue, but also complicating efforts to find a rational explanation for the phenomenon. As we continue to explore the role of government and media in the UFO phenomenon, it becomes clear that both have played a significant role in shaping public perception. The government's reluctance to engage openly with the subject, coupled with the media's inconsistent coverage, has created an environment where UFO sightings are often treated with skepticism or outright denial. This dynamic has had a profound impact on how the public understands the phenomenon and how witnesses are treated. As the search for answers continues, it is crucial to consider the role that these institutions play in shaping the narrative, and whether a more transparent approach could lead to a deeper understanding of what is happening in the skies above Australia. In recent years, however, there have been signs of change. As UFO sightings continue to increase, And as more governments around the world release previously classified information, there is a growing recognition that the phenomenon is too large to ignore. Whether this shift in attitude will lead to more transparency and openness in Australia remains to be seen, but one thing is certain. The search for answers will continue, fueled by the unwavering belief that there is something out there, waiting to be discovered. While UFO sightings in Australia are often investigated through the lens of conventional science and military inquiry, a significant portion of the public, as well as researchers, have explored alternative and paranormal theories that go beyond the standard explanations. These theories not only encompass extraterrestrial visitation, but also delve into realms of reality that challenge the very nature of human perception and understanding. These ideas, though often dismissed by mainstream institutions, have become an integral part of the discourse surrounding UFOs, with many enthusiasts and witnesses suggesting that what is occurring in Australia's skies may not simply be the result of advanced technology from another planet, but something far more complex and elusive. One of the most commonly explored alternative theories is the idea that UFOs are not just ships piloted by extraterrestrial beings, but are rather interdimensional or time-traveling vessels. Proponents of this theory argue that the objects being observed in Australia and around the world might not even originate from other planets, but from other dimensions or time periods. The theory posits that what we perceive as UFOs are actually vehicles that can traverse the boundaries of spacetime, allowing them to appear and disappear at will, and defy the normal constraints of physics. According to this view, UFOs are not simply objects from far-off star systems, but are glimpses into parallel realities or the distant future. This theory is often supported by anecdotal evidence from UFO witnesses who describe objects behaving in ways that challenge conventional laws of physics. Some report seeing craft that can seemingly bend light around them, rendering them invisible or cloaked. Others describe the sudden appearance or disappearance of objects, suggesting the ability to phase in and out of different states of reality. These accounts often raise questions about the very nature of space and time itself, hinting at the possibility that UFOs could be operating under principles of physics that humanity has yet to comprehend. Another popular, albeit speculative, theory is the idea that UFOs are connected to ancient civilizations or extraterrestrial beings that have been visiting Earth for thousands of years. This theory draws on the ancient astronaut hypothesis, which suggests that advanced alien beings visited humanity in antiquity, influencing ancient cultures and even shaping the development of human civilization. In the context of Australia, some researchers have pointed to the Aboriginal people's deep cultural connection to the stars, suggesting that their myths and legends about sky people may have been based on actual encounters with extraterrestrial visitors. The idea is that these encounters occurred long before modern UFO sightings, and that these ancient beings may have left behind remnants of their presence, which continue to influence the present-day phenomena. Some even suggest that these sky people might have remained in secret contact with humanity, appearing in the skies during times of social or technological upheaval, as if monitoring or guiding humanity's development. The Aboriginal connection to the stars is particularly fascinating because many of their myths describe beings that came from the sky, often in ships or flying objects. These stories are remarkably similar to the descriptions given by modern-day UFO witnesses, raising the possibility that the experiences of these ancient peoples might not be entirely mythological. Some researchers suggest that these encounters could have been the foundation for a long-standing cultural memory of extraterrestrial contact, passed down through generations and evolving into the mythologies we know today. Moreover, some researchers have posited that UFOs may be tied to the Earth's own energy fields and natural phenomena, such as ley lines, geomagnetic anomalies, and areas of high electromagnetic activity. According to this theory, UFOs are not always visitors from distant stars, but may be phenomena that are native to Earth, connected to the planet's energy grid. The idea of ley lines, hypothetical alignments of ancient structures, or natural landmarks, has been a subject of interest among those who study paranormal phenomena. These lines, often associated with the Earth's magnetic field, are believed by some to be conduits for the energy that UFOs could tap into. In regions of Australia, such as the outback, where these ley lines are believed to converge, UFO sightings have been more frequent. Some even claim that these anomalies may explain the frequency and nature of UFO encounters in these areas. Another theory that has gained traction, particularly in Australia, is the notion that UFOs are manifestations of human consciousness or even the collective unconscious. This theory leans into the realm of psychology and philosophy, suggesting that UFOs are not necessarily physical entities, but psychological constructs, objects created by the mind, influenced by cultural myths, fears, and desires. Proponents of this theory argue that UFO sightings may be the result of shared human experiences, creating a kind of collective hallucination or mass delusion. This idea is often tied to the concept of the psychic UFO, where UFOs are not physical craft but energy patterns, electromagnetic phenomena, or hallucinations triggered by certain environmental or psychological factors. This theory is particularly intriguing because it shifts the focus from external forces, such as extraterrestrials or advanced technology, to the internal realm of the mind. Some UFO witnesses have described their encounters as deeply personal experiences, suggesting that the phenomenon might be related to an individual's emotional or psychological state. There are reports of UFO sightings occurring during periods of intense personal stress, emotional trauma, or even during heightened states of meditation or altered consciousness. These encounters often feel deeply transformative, leaving witnesses with a profound sense of insight or revelation, which further complicates the distinction between the physical and the metaphysical. Some fringe researchers have also proposed the idea that UFOs may be linked to secret government projects, often referred to as black projects. These projects, according to this theory, involve highly classified military or scientific research that involves advanced technology, experimental aircraft, and covert operations. Proponents suggest that many UFO sightings, particularly those involving unusual flight patterns, may be the result of human-made craft rather than extraterrestrial visitors. The idea is that these black projects, often developed in collaboration with private contractors or secretive corporations, are testing technology that is far beyond what the public is aware of. Some even argue that the government's reluctance to fully disclose information about UFOs stems from a desire to conceal these secretive projects from both foreign adversaries and the public. This theory has been supported by a number of declassified documents from various governments, including the United States, which reveal that military personnel have long been aware of UFO sightings and have sometimes conducted investigations into these phenomena. In Australia, while the government has been relatively tight-lipped about the issue, there are hints that certain UFO sightings may be linked to military or government activities. This possibility is especially compelling given the prevalence of sightings in areas that are home to military bases or restricted zones, such as Pine Gap, a highly secretive facility in the Australian outback that has been the subject of numerous conspiracy theories. Finally, there are those who believe that UFOs are part of a larger, more complex phenomenon that involves not just extraterrestrial life, but also beings from other realms of existence, perhaps entities that transcend the physical and metaphysical boundaries we understand. These beings are often described as possessing abilities that challenge our concepts of time, space, and even consciousness. Some enthusiasts speculate that UFOs may be a form of communication or contact from these beings, who exist in a state of higher awareness or intelligence. The very nature of UFOs, with their ability to appear and disappear at will, their unpredictable movements, and their resistance to conventional scientific understanding, leads some to believe that they are not bound by the same physical laws that govern our world. As we explore these alternative and paranormal theories, it becomes clear that UFO sightings in Australia and worldwide are far more than just strange objects in the sky. They represent a profound mystery that touches upon the deepest aspects of human experience and understanding. Whether they are interdimensional craft, time travelers, or manifestations of the collective unconscious, these theories push the boundaries of what we know and challenge us to think beyond the conventional. While these ideas may not be accepted by the mainstream scientific community, they provide a rich and thought-provoking alternative to the more conventional explanations for UFO sightings, offering a glimpse into a world that is far stranger and more complex than we might imagine. In the end, these alternative theories are not just about UFOs. They are about the limits of human knowledge, the mysteries of the universe, and the possibility that there is far more to reality than we are capable of understanding. Whether or not these theories hold any truth, they invite us to reconsider our place in the cosmos and challenge us to look beyond the surface of what we think we know. The mystery of UFOs, especially in Australia, remains one of the most captivating enigmas of our time, one that beckons us to explore not just the skies, but the very nature of existence itself. As UFO sightings continue to occur across Australia, the approach to investigating these phenomena has evolved, reflecting broader shifts in both public interest and scientific methodology. The early days of UFO sightings, marked by government silence and a media that often ridiculed the phenomenon, have gradually given way to a more open, albeit cautious, approach to UFO investigations. Today, Australia's UFO research landscape is shaped by a combination of grassroots organizations, independent researchers, and increasing involvement from both the public and a small number of academic and scientific communities. With a new generation of technology at their disposal, modern investigators are attempting to solve the mysteries of the sky with a blend of open-minded curiosity and rigorous skepticism, hoping to uncover the truth behind the unexplained. The 21st century has seen an explosion in the number of UFO sightings, thanks in part to the proliferation of smartphones, drones, and other technologies that allow for the easy capture of unusual events. While this increase in sightings may be partly attributed to the accessibility of technology, it also speaks to the undeniable fact that people around the world, Australia included, are still witnessing strange, unexplained phenomena in the sky. Today, UFO investigators are faced with a unique set of challenges. The sheer volume of reported sightings, the ability to capture high-quality footage, and the increasing sophistication of both public and private interest in the phenomenon. One of the key organizations in Australia dedicated to investigating UFO sightings is the Australian UFO Research Network, AUFORN. Founded in the 1990s, AUFORN has become one of the most prominent groups for documenting and investigating UFO sightings across the country. The network's mission is not only to gather reports and testimonies from witnesses, but also to conduct independent investigations into the phenomena. AUFORN's approach is methodical and thorough, often involving interviews with witnesses, analysis of physical evidence, and an attempt to rule out conventional explanations. In many ways, AUFORN represents a new era in UFO research, one that is more structured and data-driven than the more speculative investigations of the past. Unlike the early days of UFO research, when investigators relied mostly on eyewitness accounts and anecdotal evidence, modern researchers have access to a wide range of tools that allow them to study UFO sightings with far more precision. Cameras, radar, infrared technology, and even satellite data are increasingly being used to document and analyze UFO phenomena in real time. Researchers can now capture high-definition video footage of strange lights in the sky, track objects across large areas using radar, and even compare eyewitness accounts with data from other sources to look for patterns. This ability to capture and document UFOs in ways that were previously impossible is helping to shift the investigation of UFOs from a largely anecdotal field to a more empirical one.